Realities precipitating toward Earth. Opening to the will needs immediate attention, for this is the path that will allow survival of what is coming on Earth. The changes necessary to rebalance Earth are precipitating into physical reality right now and are taking place because the emotional and mental energy creating them has not been cleared enough to allow anything else. The prophecies predicting these times on Earth also include understandings of how to learn what these times will teach without having to create a frightening experience in which to learn. It is a matter of personal choice here. You can learn the balance necessary to live in harmony with everything in the way that is right for you. An understanding you need about these prophecies is that they do not include any judgment from me. Judgmental quality in these prophecies is because the people foreseeing these things did not set them free of their own emotions, and could not because they have personal involvement with the Earth themselves, and have their own personal choices about how they would like reality on Earth to be. The makers of these prophecies had a desire for people to learn these lessons before they precipitated into painful physical experience. The pain and suffering they saw happening if people took the path that leads to facing these denials as outward reflections seemed to be too much for loving hearts to bear. The reality is that loving hearts can only bear it if they have the understandings of how to release pain without denying it. I'm going to put everything in its right place so that the reflections necessary can be faced without involving anyone but the ones needing that particular reflection. This action on my part looked like Judgment Day to the ones foreseeing it, but it is only Judgment Day in the sense that everyone is going to face his own reflection. The understanding needed is that this does not mean that it cannot be pleasant. Accepting the release of your own denial at the right time and in the right place will release your pain. The spirits I have created are not all alike. The true feelings, the expression of the will, are meant to guide spirits to their right place. Each spirit feels good in its right place. The denial of the will has been so extensive that many spirits are not in their right place and cannot find their right place unless I help them. Even the ones going to what is referred to by others as hell are not going to necessarily feel bad there. You need to realize that just because something does not feel good to you does not mean that it does not feel good to another. Your heaven could be their hell. The reality is that I have many different ways to feel, and I do not want limits on any of them. You have chosen to emerge with a limited consciousness, and you must accept that this is right for you. But you must not impose your limits on another. Others have different feelings and different paths, and everyone needs the freedom to follow their own path. I want to put spirits in their right place so that they do not interfere with each other in the pursuit of these paths. Respect of other paths is necessary. Even if you do not understand something, accept its right to be, and know that this is why I need to put spirits of limited consciousness in their right place. So, even if most of the people on Earth are choosing to learn from experience that they do not want to have, that appears to just happen to them for no good reason, you have the choice to understand why it's happening and to release yourself as much as possible from having to face your denials in outer reality. This is your own choice here, and it is not a matter calling for judgment. The choices you make are right for you and are going to put you in your right place. You will only experience what you need to experience in order to learn what you need to learn, no matter how much power the reality of others seems to have. The understanding you need about protecting yourself when you are surrounded by a reality that does not seem to agree with your own personal choices is this. Get in touch with why you are there and process everything you can find in yourself regarding this in the way I am explaining here and see what happens. I'm going to help you with this because I can see that the reality on earth is pressuring for widespread conformity. You must take responsibility for yourself, though, and clear out of yourself everything that holds you to a reality or part of a reality that you do not like. Then I can put you in your right place, which will not have anything you do not like, because you will not have anything within you that attracts it. I am not sending any spirits to hell unless their denials are so extensive that they refuse to accept anything from me at all. So do not worry about giving in to your own true feelings, because feelings are not in opposition to me. So many teachings have said that man is base and that if he gives in to his true feelings he will go to hell or near it, that I feel need to mention this. You are only going to go to the place that is right for you, whether it is earth or another place. Know I am a loving God and that I love all my spirits. If you think someone deserves punishment, you need to realize they will get it if they really do deserve it, but only if they create this for themselves by refusing all understandings that could help them feel good. Nothing happens in my creation unless it needs to happen, no matter how it looks to you. And yet the fact that it is all meant to happen does not mean that you should then sit back and stop acting and responding the way your own being feels is right for you, because then you have personal imbalance. Imbalance has a lesson to teach that is perfect for the situation that attracts it. If you like imbalance, you will experience it until you no longer want to. If your denials take you to hell, you need to see if denial is the way for you, and you will leave if you find out from experience that it is not your right place. In the case of Earth, the Earth has made a choice to end its imbalance and denial now, and so only those spirits that are in harmony with this choice will remain on Earth. The fear around this needs mention. Many people have fear around this understanding of right place and right time that expresses itself in many ways. This fear is a deep fear that has been held since spirits first came to Earth, because all of the spirits that came to Earth had confusions about my teaching of right time and right place. This fear feels that I judged you for this, and this fear has had no other way to feel since then, because it has not been given release. This fear has been so great that it has tried to hide from me, and it has also tried to escape judgment by holding on to wrong place and wrong time, and insisting it is right place and right time, thus proving to me that I was not right in judging it. Originally, the spirits on Earth overstepped the limits of right time and right place and experienced, before they were ready, things that overwhelmed them, and with spirits that they could not accept unconditionally. This experience was needed because these limits could not be accepted and understood in any other way, or they would have been. Hear me on this. I do not judge you for this. I only seek to teach you and warn you in an effort to save you the path of pain and suffering that comes from overstepping your limits. I am not sending you pain as punishment. Pain is supposed to warn you that you are overstepping your limits. Pain only continues if you refuse its message. I am not angry over this either. I just want to help all the spirits that have had enough of the path of pain and suffering, that the disregard for their own limits has brought to them. Many spirits thought I was judging them when I pointed out their own limits to them, and many of these spirits tried to push my presence away by rebelling against me in the belief that I then would not be able to see them or judge them if they overstepped those limits. I have allowed this experience to continue on earth for as long as it needed to. The spirits that are not ready to hear me are going to get a chance to. The prophecies all point to the time when this will happen, and that time is now. I will speak to each spirit in the form in which that spirit can hear me, because even the ones that still want to refuse to hear me must at least accept my power to put them in their right place where they can continue refusing to hear me without interfering with the ones that are now ready to hear me. See that prophecies are not something to be looked at as either a sealed fate or a doomsday or as something to deny and defy. The prophecies are meant to teach by showing people what they are creating for themselves so that they can make sure it is what they want. If it is not what you want in your own personal reality, you cannot avoid reality by denying that it is happening. You must seek the way to create differently. Release the fear that you have created your own just punishment by overstepping my limits is necessary, because holding a strong fear that you deserve punishment is going to draw punishment to you. Denying that you have this fear only disconnects the fear from the understandings it needs. Release of fear is not possible unless you have acceptance for the fear. See that Earth has reached the place where it must have its balance restored. Denial is the main reason for the problems on Earth today. You need to accept the Earth's need to be healed now, and you need to accept what is going to be involved in this. Healing the Earth is going to involve serious upsets in its usually hospitable acceptance of man. The Earth itself must clear the denials it has received from the spirits that have been living upon it. The Earth can no longer tolerate the abuse it has been receiving, and for that matter, neither can the animals. The animals have, for the most part, appeared to submit to what has been done to them. Their behaviour patterns so far have not seemed to show much variance, no matter how they have been treated. But this is not accurate seeing of the animals. Reality is that animals have much more to their behaviour than they have been showing man lately on Earth. Man cannot slaughter them, overrun their habitats, and otherwise disrespect their destiny paths without the animals responding in some way. In his denial of the animals, man has mistaken their patience for lack of response. The animals have been building up to a need for clearance themselves, and in the coming times on Earth, animals are not going to be easy to keep. Fenced and caged animals need their freedom in order to stand a chance for survival anyway. Domestic animals may need freedom and the opportunity to return to familiar ground when necessary. When the earth changes intensify, animals that need clearance may become suddenly fierce and unapproachable. Others may choose to die. Cattle, for example, have asked me to lift most of them off of Earth. Everything has consciousness and feelings, and nothing is meant to be denied unless it willingly chooses denial. Everything needs acceptance and the opportunity to fulfill itself without overpowering anything else to do it. This involves balance and attunement to what this balance is. Today, people claim that their understanding is greater than ever on Earth, but this is not exactly true. People have more experience than they have ever had before, but they have denied so much that they might as well not have the experience unless they're going to open to it and let it teach them. Original spiritual awareness sought experience to evolve itself. So many on earth overstepped cautions given to them by me that they overloaded themselves and then denied rather than admit this. In this experience, many spirits lost power, not because of the experience, but because of the denial of the part of the self that overstepped limits, and because of the denial of me. Today's society reflects this imbalance and denial, which, even though short-lived, has seemed a long sentence to spirits that remember the balanced way, even if they have temporarily lost their ability to manifest it fully. Many power-hungry individuals have attained a place of power by taking advantage of the denials of others. Denial of personal power allows others to seem to have more. When responsibility for denial is not taken, a picture of power can be projected onto others, then labelled as causal. This situation has not been improved on earth. Denial has caused more and more people to blame others and not take responsibility for themselves. I'm not telling you the specifics of why this happened, because your feelings need a chance to bring forward the memory of your own reasons for being involved in this. So see that the clearing of these misunderstandings and resultant denials is of extreme priority, unless you want to manifest the reality that will reflect what has been denied. This information is a reflection of what exists in the emotional and mental energy near Earth at present, and is not meant to sound like a threat. The desire to maintain denial can perceive the mention of that which is denied as threatening. If you feel threatened, you have pressure on your will. Otherwise, you can appreciate the warning. These statements are only meant to show what is precipitating into physical reality now, unless those that created it make changes in their energy fields. People can choose to recognize this while it is still in mental and emotional vibrations and clear it out from there, or experience it by waiting until it creates a physical reality. The situation on Earth is such that people need to know what they have been creating and are creating for themselves, and what they can do about it. I'm willing to help in whatever way my help can be accepted. At present, the openings through which people will allow help are very limited by judgments, denials, and separations. Help must match the openings made to accept it. Do not underestimate the power of your feelings here either. If you ask for help while believing at the feeling level that you cannot have it, your feelings can prevail, or make help that is present unrecognizable to you as help. Although the form has been changing, history has been repeating patterns because the understandings have not been reached. It has been believed that a change in form would change the outcome, but in fact consciousnesses can enlighten or corrupt any form it uses. Democracy is denying the reflection of its own denials. These denials will gain acceptance sooner or later, and the form this denial will take to gain acceptance will be the form needed to break through the oppression it has received. If the denial being presently held in the emotional and mental bodies of the spirits on Earth does precipitate into physical reality, it will be seen, and I exaggerate not, as either the perfect opportunity to align the spirit and the will in the heart, or as doomsday, depending upon whether the individual spirit accepts his own denial or not. The more clearance you choose to do at the emotional and mental level, the less outward reflection you will face. Once denial is cleared from the earth, the remaining people will find that they really are compatible, and government could then take on its true capacity of open-mindedly observing, giving advice and holding the balance points. At present, society on earth represents as much of the reverse of this as people have been willing to tolerate. The question of how to have a society without oppression is the question of the spirit and the will accepting the process of balancing in the heart. There are many ways this alignment can take place. Some ways are destructively oriented and others are more peaceful. Presently, feelings are so disconnected from the consciousness that they draw experiences without the understandings as to why the experience is happening. When individuals do not take responsibility for all of themselves, the result is often blaming others and acting out on others. When denial is ended and responsibility is taken, balance can be achieved without the extremes of imbalance outwardly reflected as war, revolution, rebellion, crime, violence, or any other form of social upheaval. The will wants to recover and attempts recovery through any avenue available. The will's attempts to dump out old charge on any situation that triggers it have been heavily judged against. Free will is not destructive as society presently fears. It is repressed, pressured and denied will, desperate to release its pain, that has done the things which society fears. In this light it can be seen that society actually fears facing its own denials, while telling itself it fears the will itself. Free will, when attuned, takes the lead in behaving appropriately. The will must be accepted for where it is, though, and allowed to dump out its held emotional charge safely. This will bring the will into present time, and then the only problem will be what to do with all the abundance resulting from this. No matter what anyone else chooses to do, you need only make your own personal choice to create your own reality in this way. Disconnected feelings take form in outer reality in many ways. Some spirits have a death wish, which they deny, and some believe that they would rather die than face their own denials. Both of these patterns are heavily denying their own denials. Examples of the reflection of these denials are that man has been poisoning the earth while claiming that life is better than ever, and suffering more ill health while claiming that he is only better diagnosed. The possibility of nuclear holocaust is the most macabre reflection of this denial. Destructive anger, held in a state of denial, is causing man to build weapons that could destroy the entire earth, while claiming they are only to ensure the peace and not to be used. I am not going to allow nuclear war on earth because the destructive and angry death wish of some would be overriding the choice of others to live. But I do want to warn you that your own denial could allow this reality for you. If you deny yourself past the midpoint, you risk losing the power to keep yourself alive. This is the actual state of many people on earth right now. Instead of allowing this denial to continue until it precipitates the destruction of earth, I am intervening. Everyone is going to get their own personal choice, but it must be in the right place and at the right time. Everything being done on earth right now to bring a halt to the arms race is necessary and a part of the process of individuals reclaiming power over their own destiny paths. I will make sure it succeeds and will help in whatever way is appropriate. But I cannot lift this struggle off earth until enough has been learned that the same pattern will not draw back to the earth again, because the earth herself does not want this anymore. The meek shall indeed inherit the earth, because the meek do not overpower anyone else. The practice today of overriding the earth and its people with pollution and other forms of the imbalance that creates death is not the practice of free will. It is possible that some pollution and poisoning could have taken place as a reflection of the imbalance between spirit and will, but learning takes place before death results, unless denial is so substantial that death is all it can create. The massive attempt to kill Earth is being carried on by spirits that have this much denial. These spirits are denying others in favour of themselves. The ones denying themselves in favour of others are handing them the power to do it. The ones that feel victimised by the situation on Earth have something to learn here. Everyone, if personal denial is reclaimed, actually has enough power to protect the self from harm. The end of personal denial allows the will to create a place for itself that is free of denial and what denial creates. Do not hold any limits on the possibilities here. The will can be allowed to start with the things closest to it. Let your will have free response to everything you experience. Accept the will's message to you without waiting for an outward experience to prove it is right. If the will is accepted, you will not create any experiences for yourself that you do not like. Your will is the divine protection I have given you. For example, if you have been told by someone else what constitutes a good diet and what is right medicine, let your will have complete freedom to tell you if this is accurate for you or not. Opening to the will means that you will allow what is best for yourself. Emotional release. Judgment release is necessary, and by that I mean out loud in some way that appeals to you. Say something that indicates you no longer wish to limit your consciousness with that particular belief that you are releasing. For example, I forgive myself for believing ... or I no longer believe ... that I cannot recover my full spiritual presence on earth. The other necessary part of the release is emotional release. Emotional release means that the emotions become free to respond to any given situation with what that situation actually calls for. When emotions have been experienced in relationship to a situation but have not been given complete expression, they do not go away, they only subside and wait. The emotions cannot be dismissed in this way, though. They have a consciousness of their own. Neither do emotions respond to the mind telling them how they should be feeling. Emotions have a role to fulfill in evolution that cannot be denied in favour of the mind or anything else. And so, when the next situation arises that reminds the emotions of the previous one where they were denied, the emotions do not feel that they can respond freely to the situation. The emotional response is coloured by the denial the emotions received in the previous situation, and by the unexpressed amount of emotion being held because of the denial. This old charge must be released before the emotions can respond to the present situation for what it is. The usual pattern, however, has been to increase the original denial rather than to fully allow the emotions to express what seems to be an even more intense response than was originally denied. This pattern has continued until the emotions now only express easily in situations where they have had acceptance in the past and in ways that have been accepted in the past. This amounts to severe limitations on the evolution of the emotional body. The emotional body, in fact, has taken on the appearance of something so destructive-looking that many spiritual teachers have perceived this to be evidence that the emotional body should be controlled and even gotten rid of. This appearance is just the desperation of the emotional body because it has been so denied. The emotional body must be healed because it is the magnetic energy, and magnetic energy is what attracts and holds my presence, and also holds the individual's spirit in manifestation. This is, in fact, a source of great misunderstanding in spiritual teachings. It has long been thought that proper spiritual practice involved abdicating magnetic energy in favour of white light. Hear me on this. The magnetic energy is part of me already and is not to be denied. No part of the self is to be denied. My presence needs to be with your own spirit in all the forms involved in manifesting. Many people have a confusion on manifestation and what it means. You are my companions. The self is not something to be shared as soon as you have enough spiritual enlightenment to reach me. I want this creation to evolve, not to go back on itself. In fact, I want the pain and suffering ended as soon as possible. Pain and suffering is nothing more than denying the will, the magnetic energy, its role of guiding you to your own right place. The reason the will has not been able to guide and protect you is because of the denial it has experienced. To end this denial, you need to open into unconditional acceptance of your emotional expression. If you immediately fear upon hearing this that you or others will get violent and do harm, you need to realize you have undermined your own will very seriously. In this case, the first thing you need to do is to find a safe place and express rage without harming anyone until you have expressed enough rage to calm down enough to release harmlessly, rather than to force yourself to control the need to be violent. Do not calm yourself by talking to yourself or forcing the calm in any way indicative of not being able to accept this rage. The calm has to come from release of the rage. This can actually be a good starting place because the intensity will release a lot of old charge at once. Intense release needs this understanding. Loss of control is only bad if you judge against it. Loss of control actually allows you to break up old habit patterns in your response. The emotional body cannot evolve if it is limited to old patterns of response. This is not a matter of what is presently socially acceptable. This is a matter of seeing that the emotional body on earth is so desperate that it either has to recover within the next few lifetimes or die. Past attempts of the will to recover on its own without the help of the spirit have not been successful and have resulted in more denial of the will and loss of power in general. Emotional release is absolutely necessary, but I have already seen that most people are so blocked emotionally, so conditioned away from spontaneous emotional expression, and so frightened of what they have denied, that they are calling for this release to come to them from their outer reality. I'm guiding this process and doing everything I can to help it to be a successful clearance process for all the spirits involved. If you have these understandings in advance, you have the opportunity to understand what is happening and to clear as much old charge as possible. You do not need to experience anything more intense than what is required to bring the release of old denials and the habit patterns that held them in place. The reality is that only if you hear me can you get everything released on your own, but emotional release is also what you need to do to hear me. If you start where you are and release everything you can as completely as you can every time anything triggers you, and I do not mean that if you cannot release sometimes that you cannot recover, you will free your emotional body of old charge very rapidly. The more you clear it, the more opening you will have through which you can hear me. Once you have released enough old charge to actually listen and hear me, I will be able to guide you to clear the rest. You must trust what you receive from me, though. Have faith that clearing your emotional body is also going to allow you to feel that I am a loving presence. If you have fear of being misled by something claiming to be me, release fear until there is none left. Then you will be able to feel me instead of your own fear. When you can clearly feel me, you will know it is me. Now I want to explain what I mean by emotional release. When you have an emotion such as grief or fear come up, you need to feel it in your body until your body urges you to express it in some way. Then express in the way your body is urging you to do. Express in this way until you feel no further need to do it. Surrender to the expression while it is happening and let it take its course freely. Be in as much a state of openness and acceptance as possible. Let the emotional release show you what it has to teach. Pay attention to everything that comes into your consciousness at this time. Let everything that happens find acceptance with you instead of denial. Release any judgments that surface and seem ready to go. When the release subsides, rest and remain open. If more emotion surfaces, release it as your body directs. The understandings you will receive from doing this are not anything I can put in a book. You will find that your emotions have so much to teach you that you didn't realize previously, that you will soon find yourself wanting your emotions to release their old charge so you can remember your past, learn and feel free again. Your body is going to soon realize how much better it feels when it no longer has to hold old charge. In some places in your emotional body, you may find some old charge that has too much fear to come forth in this release process. If this happens, you need to ask me for help and accept the help I send. I may speak to you and tell you how to do it, or I may send you an experience to trigger it. I can clearly see what it is for your highest good in every single case, and I will make sure that your own highest good comes to you. This is why I am now sending this book to Earth. Even though many people do not at present want to hear from me, and would prefer to face their own reflection without knowing it, some want my help. Those that want my help will receive it in one form or another. If the form presented here feels right to you, trust it, try it, and find out for yourself what it has to offer you. Emotional release has been practiced by some therapists, and I have seen all of this. All of these therapists are trying to help, and yet they are all holding mental and emotional limitations themselves that prevent them from realizing what in fact a healthy spirit on earth is supposed to be like. Therefore I suggest that you not seek a therapist, but instead realize that this process is going to empower you to restore yourself to your own full spiritual presence. Only if you need reassurance should you get help for any part of your process. I do not mean by this that this is going to make you an isolated and alienated individual. I do not mean that dependence on others is going to end so that your relationships are no longer based on need. Instead, you will have relationships that feel free and overflowing with the abundance of unconditional love. Release the conditioning society has given you, and release your own old conditioning, and open to the understandings needed. Give will and spirit enough space in which to move into alignment. Let them vibrate fast enough to stay alive through the changes coming on Earth if you want to stay on Earth. Right use of will had to be given now because emotions vibrate space, and at present on Earth people are not expressing emotions enough to vibrate their space adequately to hold it open for themselves. When something is created without vibrational power, it has no propellant. It does not go out with any vigorous life in it and cannot open the space in which it can happen. It cannot stay manifested. Instead of holding space open for themselves, people on Earth are now experiencing life as if space were closing in on them more and more. This appears to you in physical reality as the feeling of less and less freedom in personal life to create what you want, and instead a feeling of more and more control, compression, and finally death. There is actually so much closing in of space going on that most people have not let themselves realize it, because they fear the realization would be too frightening and overwhelming. Others want someone else to solve it. This avoidance has been allowing the closing in to progress even more rapidly, because the more the feelings are suppressed, the more unable they are to vibrate space. This increasing compression has been going on for quite some time, and the time has come to reverse this before people no longer have the power to reverse it. Each person has a certain amount of spiritual power, and denial has been diminishing it.